guest this morning and having this all-important discussion. So I'm going to head straight into the questions, and I'm going to start with yourself, Katie. You spoke now about the first is over, and we need to move from the first to bringing more in and sustaining that. How do you define good governance in sport, and why is it a non-negotiable in driving from moving from the first to the first of many?
Good governance in sport, is this on? Good governance in sport is really defined by democracy, stakeholder representation, and transparency. And all of those things combined, work together. And it's really about providing the checks and balances in your organization to ensure that all of those processes are deeply embedded and that, you are accountable. So in terms of being accountable, we do need to drive the change, and good governance is absolutely fundamental in that. And our good governance standards, the gold standard at the moment is 30%. Gender equity on the board, but we know that that's not 50, but many aren't meeting the 30. So we're going to work on the first phase. So in terms of the good governance standards and getting some accountability, we believe that these are critical to driving change that is sustainable and long lasting.
Okay, quick follow up on that. The SIGA Council that's just been recently established, what role would they play in driving the governance to move from 30 to 50 and further?
Well, I think it's absolutely important to have role models and leaders that people had from around the world that people can identify with. And so the SIGA Women Council has been carefully curated to have those women champion the cause. So I believe that they play a critical role, both in their countries and continents, but also in terms of bringing and ushering younger women. So I really look forward to working with them, and it's great to see so many of them here and those joining online.
Yeah, look, it's definitely great, and the representation amongst the different countries as well.
You too, right, Beth.
Sally, talking about representation, we're still very much underrepresented across the world, women leadership. Do you think there are systemic barriers that still hold women back, or is there other factors that influence that?
There's certainly systemic barriers. I think you see that throughout industry organisations and within sport itself. And I think probably more so in sport. In a lot of sports, they're very male-dominated, or at least historically male-dominated. And those barriers come forward and they move through the administration of the sport as well. I think the only way people get to change that, we hate, but it has to be a lot of education and a lot of grassroots level up to actually have any kind of effective change at mass age.
From a grassroots level, what are some of those barriers that we can start working towards eliminating?
It's a lot about educating people about gender equity and getting people to understand what it means, what about getting people to understand that there is equality. A woman and a man can do the same job.
Yeah.
They can have the same abilities. They can have the same thoughts, but also having a kind of varied perspective in decision making where you have both female and male involved, I think is actually very beneficial and can help bring forward better decision making. And they should get decisions more attractive to people as well.
Yeah, definitely. Both Daniela and Budrea both run women's sports businesses. I'm going to start with you, Budrea. What are some of those barriers that you've experienced, and how have you overcome them?
Well, working in football, and specifically in men's football, for most of my career, obviously I've been challenged throughout. So I've experienced this firsthand, being seen as an outsider, someone that doesn't belong. But that was at least 15 years ago. Things have changed a lot. Initially, my gender alone was a problem for people in the room. So I found that I had to always work harder and do more to prove that I was worthy of that space.
Yeah.
But I've also had to become a lot harder. I had to become very tough and work in a way that I didn't necessarily want to.
Yeah.
But to gain that respect in those rooms, you just had to be tougher and almost ruthless for them to know that you were serious in what you do. And unfortunately, it just kind of stuck with me. I say that one throughout my work. But the challenges they're there, but the things are changing. I'm seeing a bigger friends now. When it comes to besides the women's football club I am now, I worked in men's football almost exclusively for most of my life.
Yeah.
So I didn't see many women around me
Yeah.
who look like me or women in general. But I see a lot more of that now.
How did you take that being, I'm sure there were whispers that, this is a male sport, what are you doing here? How did you use that as a positive to where you are today?
It just added fuel to my fire. It just made me want to prove even more that I can do what I can do, not because I'm a woman, because I'm just good at what I do.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to see me and see my gender. I just wanted to see my profession. Because I'm not competing with other women, I'm competing with everybody.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm the first in Morocco. That doesn't say much. We're not that many.
No.
Or say I'm the best in this specific area.
Yeah.
And it takes so much away from me when they just
Yeah.
be the first of, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I'm the first of so many things. I got bored. It's a lot. But then what does that really say about where we're at? That's not a great thing. But it's changing, and I'm very happy to now see the seconds and third supports.
Yeah, that's great. Daniela, as an entrepreneur in sport and establishing a women's sport business, what are some of the challenges that you faced?
Wow. First of all, hello everyone. So many powerful women here in the room. Incredible. I'm so happy to be here. I enjoyed so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. And you are so right. We are so strong. We can do everything in life, but we get the wrong position in the beginning. But now we can handle everything. And coming back to the challenges, oh my God, there was a lot of challenges. I follow always my passion. I become a dancer, I become a choreographer. My mother don't believe in me. She don't believe in my passion. And I was thinking when I do something in life, I would feel passionate about everything. And later on, 2008, it was the finance crisis. And there was the first crisis where all my dancing jobs are cancelled. And then one day I was so inspired, and this is very interesting. My ladies here, I was inspired by Lady One on switching. When I saw how she walked confident on the pole, I was feeling I have to bring this word out to Switzerland. But the crazy thing, no one was believing in me.
Yeah.
The men saying, oh my God, this is something sexy. And the women saying, oh my God, I can tell my husband. And this was the beginning. I start with the first pole fitness workshop. And I had 20 women in the room with 4 poles. And I had no investor. There was no one believing in me. And I want to give women more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they need more confidence also in life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I opened my first studio, of course, people was laughing about the sport, laughing about you don't really make any money with the sport. And after 10 years, I opened already 15 studios all over Switzerland. And so many, after they try the sport, they feel confident. So many change their lives who don't feel like, oh my God, there is something in my life. There is also some sports who makes me happy in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe today, everything is possible. Everything. When I can bring pole fitness in the conservative Switzerland to make it popular, to have we have around 20,000 students who fall in love with the sport. You can do anything in life. And I think we are so strong. Every woman here in the room are strong. But we have to work together. No competition.
Yeah.
No jealousy. Supporting. And I see today a woman on the street, and I see, wow, she looks amazing. I give her a compliment. And this is so amazing also today in sport. Help each other. And I love that here are men in the room who help women. This is incredible. But also, we don't have to forget to really support each other, to be here and saying you can be for everything what you have done with your for women's sport. You need more women like you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thanks. Thank you very much for
Thank
that.
you so
It's
much.
true.
I'm
We
happy
need
to
to
be
we
here.
need to believe in ourselves, and we need to understand that as much as at times we feel imposter syndrome, it's just a myth. I can do it all. I can make it possible. Sally, I'm going to come to you. You work with a lot of federations and clubs and organizations, and inclusivity is a word that's been thrown around so much these days. It's inclusivity for women in sport, inclusivity for athletes with disabilities. What is it that federations, clubs, and organizations can do to not just to speak it, but to put action and also be able to audit themselves to say, this is how far we've come and we've got so much more to go. And because I believe that would also eliminate the first.
No, that's a very good question. So, I'll go back to what I said earlier. Education is the key about the fact that women are not separate species in one word. We're all the same. We can all do the same thing. We are competing against everyone, not just for women. But it's about kind of helping people understand and just helping through policies and processes to make sure that we're trying to move away from this virus, whether it's unconscious or conscious.
Is it on?
That women should be seen equally, and we should be all have the ability to do whatever we want to do. We can do the same as everyone else. But it's about creating opportunities, getting women to work together and getting the men within the organizations to work together to understand the kind of the aim. And it's through policies and procedures, whether that be through recruitment policy, to making sure, for example, that there is, at the ICC, there is a policy where we provided that obviously technical capability is there. We will always try and shortlist a female for kind of the last three for a position. We also try and have a female senior manager that involved in the recruitment process and things like that. So that should go to Helm. But it's just it's about understanding policies and procedures and just making sure people are aware that we're thinking in the whole throughout every kind of decision that's being made.
Yeah, definitely. Katie, you're nodding a lot.
Yes, I think that obviously term limits are important.
Yeah.
You can't have the same leadership in power, and that's not just good for women, but it's good for the whole organisation. So I think term limits are really fundamental. And then obviously in terms of accountability, that's one of the main drivers, and that's what the work we're leading at CEDA. We have certified 5 international federations and football leagues around the world so far, and we're looking to roll this out. And obviously part of the criteria of that is the gender equity piece on the board.
Yeah.
So that really shows the sponsors, the fans, the investments, the government, some of the accountability, and that some of the changes are actually embedded in the cultural change. So I think that we do need to be accountable to ensure that there is long-lasting systemic change in the organisation.
Yeah, because without that, then we just go around in circles. We keep coming back to there's only one. Pedrea, what are your thoughts on that?
I always take it back to the boardroom, and every boardroom I've been in, actually with the exception of the one Miss Nora herself, but it's always men.
Yeah.
It's always men that I'm seeing in sports, at least. And to be fair, I did work in the world of men's football.
Yeah.
So I understand that. And I think it's very important to understand the cultural element here. I would not expect ever to see 50% of that boardroom to be women, because it is men playing that sport. There should be women in that boardroom. There should be more than one woman in that boardroom, and she should not be known as in Arabic and answer in Nisa'i. That actually means the female component or female element. Sometimes it's a tick box exercise when you're not qualified, unlike some friendly folks like people here that I've worked with personally. But it's very upsetting that we're known as just that. And that's definitely something that needs to change, and I hope will change. But just like I want to see more women in those boardrooms of men's sports, I do want to see men in the wardrobes of women's sports as well. I don't believe anything should be done exclusively by one gender at all. Because we all bring something to the table. I just want to take gender out of it completely. I think anyone who is qualified should be in that room. And things are changing slowly, but I have complete respect for these cultural nuances that matter in my culture, where I don't expect to ever, not to say ever, but at least let's say not in the next 10 to 15 years, I don't see myself running the men's league. That's just, maybe a little bit of a realize. And I'm a dreamer, but I know the reality of my culture. And I think also educating other people on what that means for us and how it's not actually, there is no, no one's keeping women out of that room, but there's a reason that men are in that one.
Yeah.
But I am noticing more and more that these things are changing, especially when you're looking at sports that are played by both genders, of course, male and female. So improvement, but with a cultural.
Yeah, look, definitely. And within your space, you obviously have a lot of young women that, yes, would look up to you and would look to you for guidance and would want to follow in your footsteps. What would be your advice to them?
I think everyone that I'm meeting now that we have a girls football. We have girls as young as 11 years old who play football in the name of my club, which makes me so proud. Yeah. And I see girls, Arab girls from everywhere who are playing and representing Benad FC that is based on Emirati values. We're a modest football club. We're trying to be sensitive to what families want to see in women's football, and others are being attracted to it as well. And I'm completely shocked when one of the parents comes up to me and tells me that his little girl wants to be like me when she's older. I'm like, it's the most incredible thing and the most rewarding thing in the world, because they don't know my struggle. They don't know what I've been through to get here. But what I do know is I want to make it much easier for them to get to where I am.
Yeah, it's all about making sure that we leave it better for the next generation.
So now there's a lot less fear or hesitation entering the world of sports. We see so many women in this world now. We're back. When I was doing it, we were maybe just, I could count this on one hand, at least in the men's league. So you can see so many examples. And one of the things we also do at Benad FC, for example, is that all my players have to have public social media accounts.
Okay.
That was something that upset so many people.
I'm sure, yeah.
And for me, it's very simple. You can't become what you don't see.
Yeah.
So I can't create role models if everyone's in hiding. And they're seeing more examples of what to do and how to be and where they can reach.
Yeah.
So just do it, as my sponsor said.
Daniela, working with so many different women, and it's obviously very important for you to build a community culture between trainers and your athletes. How do you do that, and how do you make sure that it's sustainable? Because by driving that, you're driving a lot of cultural change as well.
Yeah, what we have done to bring also the students and also the teachers together, we organize a lot of workshops, open days. Also, we invite a lot of international instructors, famous instructors, who teach them. And out of this, we get a strong community. And I think this is very important. And what you say also before about role models. For our students, it was very important to bring these role models in the studios to get also the motivation, while the sport is not so easy. It's athletic. And sometimes they need motivation to stay longer, to believe in themselves, and also to get better in the sport. And that's why it was very helpful to bring the community together, to organize this kind of networking, and also bring teachers and students together. And teachers that also help students to create choreographies for the open days. And this makes the community stronger. And on the other side, we have organized school camps in different countries. And then the students have the possibility to get closer with our teachers.
Yeah.
This was beautiful. This is something where we recommend, like a camp, also for the sports industry. This make both stronger, the community.
Yeah, we've got to be able to build our communities and create that sustainability so that we grow, right?
It's amazing. We have students that stay like 10 years in our studios. So
That's amazing.
some
Yeah,
of them 15 years since we opened the studios.
that's quite amazing. I'm going to come to you, Sally, and we're going to talk about sponsors and broadcasters and investors. How do we find a way of making them incentivize gender equality and sound governance? And understanding that that space has changed a lot in the past couple of years. I mean, it's always been about TV rights. And now, with digital media having taken over and the later generation not sitting in front of TVs, how do we put that all together? But in the end, look at how we incentivize gender equity and sound governance in sports organizations.
Well, I think using social media is a great way of doing it and championing anything that a sport is doing on the gender equity arena, whether it be any kind of a county club who has promoted one of its employees to the board, which then ultimately leads potentially moving up to the member, the national federation, and ultimately up to the international federation in due course. We're just championing anything that supports gender equity with a view to the fans seeing it, potential sponsors, potential investors seeing it, and that maybe then would encourage them to consider investing in the sport because of the developments they're making or improvements they're making in that arena.
Yeah, definitely. Katie, how do you tie that together? I mean, it's not the easiest to get sponsors, especially when it comes to a woman in sport initiative. And how do you make that work? Because you seem to make it work quite well.
Thank you. I actually believe that the power of the sponsors and the power of the sponsorship purse to drive the change. These sponsors are global corporations, and dare I say it, they have their gender equity and their diversity policies are more advanced than the sports organizations.
Yeah.
So they can use that as an incentive to get the sponsorship through. And I think that, the brands we have on board today, MasterCard, Coca-Cola, and Adidas will be here with us later. And they are doing amazing things. And I think they are changing the game as far as that goes. So I think that they do bring that together and that they can really change the needle when it comes to good governance in sports and the sports properties that they invest in.
Yeah, look, definitely. But Ryan, care to weigh in on that?
Well, I've noticed recently, if you're looking at women's sports specifically, globally, obviously, because of how I think talking about football, after the Women's World Cup, the world went crazy for women's football.
Yeah.
Everyone thought of it as this is an opportunity, at least the wise ones did. It is an opportunity. But a lot of companies also took it as the CSR approach.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of, but
yes.
I'll take the money however it comes. We need the investment, and a lot of companies are looking at it as something they need to wake up and support. We are getting that attention a lot more from international organizations, but I have local partners that are great. I have designers, someone in the room actually right there, who's actually offered support and design. There we are. He designed reached out to us and offered to design whatever we needed, and they came up with great poster designs, things that really became a big part of not just our merchandise, but the values that we're trying to push up. And we're getting similar efforts from other local partners. We have Pickle, which is a burger brand.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Pickle? And Pickle reaching out and saying, we want to be your supporters. We want to be your partners. So Pickle spoil us whenever, obviously we've got professional athletes on the women's team, so I'm not feeding them burgers all the time. But when they do win a game, they get to go to Pickle and we get to have a free meal. They spoil all our fans. Well, all our fans in a women's game is like 30 to 50 people, but they get free meals for everybody. We give vouchers for everyone. That kind of support says a lot. And while obviously now when you look at international organizations, even if they are, let's say local organizations who have international backgrounds for their personnel, they do already have kind of at least a fair split when you look at their employees. They have a lot more females on them than we need to worry about. I don't know, one of our partners, our biggest sponsor is Nike. Obviously, again, just like with Adidas, they're doing their part for women as well. So as long as the partners already recognize the importance of that, it actually reflects on the efforts and their actual interest to support us. Is not just a tick box exercise. So they actually care and they value and they've proven that they support women from their workplace to the sports that they actually sponsor.
Yeah, and do you think innovation also plays a large part of that?
Absolutely. And like social media, besides social media streaming, for example, now we do streaming for our games in a very, very simple way. But we do have a lot of people tune in. We get people from Saudi and Morocco and Spain. I have people that reach out and saying they actually follow Benat FC and they become fans. That makes a big difference. And it also obviously attracts sponsors as well for them to know. For us to be able to track it is very important, so I can listen to what's happening on my platforms and then to my fans. That reflects as well on the sponsorship value that I'm able to extract from whichever sponsor. So we're also working on things like we've been creating content from the start of our journey. I have a ton of video footage because one day I do imagine our story being a Netflix documentary, so
that would be great,
I'm preparing for our big moment. I want my Wrexham moment. So you need partners, you need technology, you need digital partners for things like that to come up.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that Netflix documentary.
Me too.
Daniela, having started your business from starting up and then losing everything and starting again, how difficult was it for you to convince investors?
It was very hard. I think, when I start with All Fitness, it was very hard. Investors don't believe in it. They don't see what I can say behind the sport. They don't see what the sport make good also for women. And this was very hard. Of course, in the beginning, I was searching. I had a concept and everything, business plan, but they don't believe in it. And then I do it by myself. What you can do when no one supports you, you do it by yourself. And later on, of course, after studio, when we opened studio number 10, they start to believe it. And it was very hard, but we organized twice the World Championship in Poland, in Switzerland. And I remember there was the sport TV. And they said, Daniela, we love the idea and everything, with more than 20 countries, but it cost it was $30,000 at this time. And for me, my passion was so big. I want to bring this sport out to every woman, to show every woman how beautiful this sport is. And I invest the money. I invested from my own pocket. And this was okay. I think, or you say also before, when you don't find sponsors for your business, try it by yourself. You can do it by yourself. When your community or when all the women or men who are in your community have the same vision, then everything's possible. We had 75 trainers and they have the same vision. And I believe really it's beautiful to have sponsors. It's beautiful to have the support. And it's amazing to have MasterCard and Coca-Cola as a sponsor. It was a dream in my time. But today I think you can do it by yourself, but it's much easier to have sponsors to grow and reach more people.
Yeah,
for sure.
Look, an initial business plan is never the blueprint at the end of the day. It changes according to needs and market. And Katie, having what was initially planned for Sega Women and where we are today, were there any changes that you'd had to make, but still sticking to the principles, because that's the most important thing?
Well, believe it or not, the Global Mentorship Program before COVID was in person. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? We paired up people, bilaterally in the same country, in the same city. I can't imagine doing that now. So COVID was really kind, and we changed the model, and now it's all virtual. And our ambition for this year was to double the connections. Last year, we connected 150 women from 32 countries. This year, I have speed dated probably 200 women to be part of the initiative. Many people I've met today who I've only met for the first time today, but met virtually all this year. So I think technology has been the biggest sort of change. And obviously, I'm determined this shouldn't just be 300 but from 50 countries this year. This should be thousands. It's doable. We have so many female leaders and they all want to give back because we haven't got that equity yet. So I'm determined to do that, very ambitious. And I know that through partnerships, we can definitely do that.
No, look, most definitely. Sally, I want to come to you before we close off. The ICC has really pushed really hard to ensure that there's adequate competition for women. And obviously within the areas in the top countries in cricket, there's a lot of cultural barriers that exist. How does the ICC work around that?
Obviously, the ICC has to recognise that. It's obviously a very political issue. And
Yes.
It's a very political issue. But we work with our member federations. We don't work with members, we work with governments via our member federations. And we are there to support our member federations wherever they're needed and wherever we can to help push that through. Obviously, a number of the small members are very sophisticated when it comes to women's cricket, but women's cricket and the development of women's cricket is a key strategic pillar for the ICC. It's something that is really being focused on. And we just try and support where, because, there is one obvious example where it's very difficult culturally. But we support our member and our member's ready and willing to do whatever it can when it is allowed to push forward with the development of this create.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I'm gonna close off, but I just need to know, is there any questions before we close off, please? Yes.
It's not a question, it's just a personal liability. Somebody at the work who spoke on now. Just a beautiful, I think a lot of the yeah. So the only thing that I want to say is because my neighbor here, she asked Banat FC. For those who don't, maybe you should tell people what Banat means because it's such a beautiful Arabic English name. But I think you would. I was asked because she asked me if it was a girls only football club. And I'm like, Banat actually means girls in Arabic. So it's a girls football club. So thank you for naming it that. It's such a beautiful cultural attachment to the name. So
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that was very important to us because there were no women's football clubs that had Arabic names. So that was a big, very, very important target for us is to have representation in women's football. And it started with the simplest words, the girl from here to Morocco connect with. So we're very proud of it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I got the mic if someone wants it.
Good eye.
Okay. Thank you very much, ladies. That was, I hope, was quite an interesting discussion, and each and every one of you took something away from that you could then entrench or use within your own environments. Thank you.
Thank you so much.